November 28, 2016, police were called to do a welfare check on Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy in their Hardin Valley area home. Knox County Sheriff's Office Detective Jeremy McCord stated that upon entering the home, the scene grew stranger and stranger. Joel and Lisa's wallet sat on a kitchen table along with a hammer and cell phone. Groceries were strewn at the foot of the stairs leading up to the second floor. Someone had set the heat in the house as high as it would go, to more than 90 degrees. An odd chemical smell filled the house. When officers started up the stairs, they noticed blood spatters all over the carpet and walls. A pile of clothes sat on the landing, along with chemical tubs and a knife. Further down the hall, officers could see a pair of human hands on the floor of a room the family used for exercising. "It's gut-wrenching," McCord said. "It's something that I've never experienced before in a crime scene." The officers spotted the dismembered remains of Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy in 2 blue tubs in the master bathroom. As officers continued their search through the home, they discovered Lisa Guy's head cooking in a stock pot on the kitchen stove. The victims suffered numerous slashes to the back, shoulder, chest, and butt. An autopsy showed Joel Guy Sr. suffered more than 40 stab wounds. His wife had 31. Joel Guy Sr. also suffered multiple wounds to his hands as he tried to defend himself. Why the killer decided to leave Joel Sr.'s hand sitting on the exercise room floor is unknown. The killer appeared to use multiple knives and surprise the couple as they went about their day. After being stabbed to death, the killer allegedly removed all their clothes and then cut them up limb by limb in their own master bathroom. Officers were shocked by the gruesome scene. But who was responsible? Who would want Joel Sr. and Lisa dead? Who would commit such a heinous crime? Especially over Thanksgiving weekend, a time that should be special for family and friends. It was the family's last holiday in the house, which Lisa and Joel Guy Sr. had recently sold. Joel Sr. had planned to retire and move to a new house, sending the cash flow to the couple's son, 28-year-old Joel Guy Jr. The couple had planned to cut Joel off financially. Lisa had spent most of her adult life as a homemaker and only worked to give her paycheck to her son. The couple had told Joel a few months before that it was time for him to stand on his own 2 feet. Joel had never held a job and had been taking college courses for a decade at Louisiana State University. Police found a backpack belonging to Joel Jr. under the bed in the guest bedroom of Lisa and Joel Sr.'s home. In the backpack, there was a notebook that he detailed at great length how he would kill his mother and father, then how he would dispose of their remains, step by step. The notes contained a plan for the killings and explicitly described the steps he would take. He was hoping to eradicate any evidence of his role in his parents' death. He was apprehended at his Baton Rouge, Louisiana, residence on November 29, 2016, after he tried to flee in his 2006 Hyundai Sonata. When police searched his vehicle, they found a meat grinder and a can of gasoline in his car's trunk.
Authorities in Knoxville, Tennessee discovered a gruesome scene inside a home. A couple murdered and mutilated.
Both suffered multiple, vicious stab wounds, as well as dismemberment. Joel Jr. placed portions of the remains in an acid-based solution in an attempt to destroy evidence.
And the Knox County Sheriff says their 28-year-old son is responsible. Joel Guy Jr. is accused of killing his parents, Lisa and Joel Sr., cutting them up and trying to dissolve them in acid. Investigators say they were last seen alive the day after Thanksgiving, which they celebrated with their son and 3 daughters. Lisa Guy's co-workers called police to do a welfare check, which led to them finding the couple's body parts all over the home. Joel Jr. was arrested in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and charged with first-degree murder. He has reportedly been denied bond.
The notes read, "Kill him with a knife. Clean up the mess from him before she gets home. Kill her with a knife." Before instructions to place her in the shower and turn on hot water and point at her to get rid of forensics. Cut off his arm and plant flesh under her fingernails. Use sodium hydroxide to destroy his soft tissue and soften bones for transport. Baste once every hour to accelerate. Wipe down areas near killing rooms and bathrooms before turning up the heating to 90 degrees in the home because it speeds up decomposition and melts fingerprints. Get knives, quite multiple. Get carving knives to make small pieces. Get sledgehammer, crush bones, douse killing room's kitchen with bleach. Flush chunks down the toilet, not garbage disposal. Don't have to get rid of the body if no forensic evidence. Joel also wrote about setting fire to the family home to vanquish all evidence or flooding the home to cover up forensic evidence. On another page he wrote $500,000 would be all mine, and another page shows details of the assets belonging to Lisa Guy, including a $500,000 life insurance policy that lists Joel Guy Jr. as a beneficiary. The victims' torsos and some of their limbs were placed in 45-gallon plastic containers, doused with a corrosive chemical and left to liquefy. Joel Guy Sr. was stabbed and slashed 42 times, with some of the blows severing his ribs and puncturing his liver, lungs and kidneys. The autopsy showed that his hands were cut off at the wrists, his arms were severed at the shoulder blade, his legs were sawed off at the hip and his right foot was removed at the ankle. The evidence indicated he fought for his life. Lisa was stabbed 31 times and had 9 of her ribs severed. Her legs were cut off below the knee and her arms were removed at the shoulder. Her head was placed in a pot to boil on the stove. Joel was caught on several surveillance cameras buying the supplies he would later use to murder and dissolve his parents. He used cash for every transaction and self-checkout most of the time. He bought supplies for the murder as early as November 7th, buying several items at an Ace Hardware in Napoleonville, including muriatic acid and food-grade hydrogen peroxide. On the 18th at Home Depot he can be seen buying the bleach sprayer, extension cords and a timer. At Academy Sports, on November 19th, he is seen buying a Marine-style Ka-Bar knife. On November 21st, he can be seen at a Knoxville Walmart, buying one of the plastic blue totes, large enough for the dismembered bodies to dissolve in. Lisa Guy was also caught on surveillance footage shortly before her murder, buying supplies at Walmart at approximately 12:15 p.m. At the trial in 2020, Joel Guy Jr. pled not guilty. The trial took 4 days. Joel was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for the murder of his mother Lisa Guy and his father Joel Guy Sr.
Form for the first count. And if you please announce your findings by reading the sentence, we the jury find the defendant, and then announce your findings.
We the jury find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder of Joel Guy Sr.
Count number 2, please.
We the jury find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder of Lisa Guy.
Count number 3.
We the jury find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of first-degree felony murder of Lisa Guy.
Count number 4.
We the jury find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of first-degree felony murder of Joel Guy Sr.
Count number 5.
We the jury find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of felony murder of Lisa Guy.
Count number 6.
We the jury find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of abuse of a corpse of Joel Guy Sr.
And count number 7.
We the jury find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of abuse of a corpse of Lisa Guy.
Thank you, Madam Foreperson. If you please return that to Officer Coker for the record, you may have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if that's your individual verdict as to each count, please signify by raising your right hand. All right, let the record reflect the court sees all 12 hands. Does either side wish any further polling? Joel Michael Guy and docket number 110145, after being tried by a jury of peers, the first-degree premeditated murder of Joel Michael Guy, the court now sentences you to life in prison in the Tennessee Department of Corrections. Count number 2, after being found guilty by a jury of peers of the first-degree premeditated murder of Lisa Guy, I now enter sentence of life in prison in the Tennessee Department of Corrections. Count number 3 is a first-degree felony murder during the perpetration of first-degree premeditated murder of Lisa Guy. The court now sentences you to life in prison in that count to merge into count number 2. Count number 4 is first-degree felony murder during the perpetration of theft of Joel Guy Sr. The court sentences you to life in prison in Tennessee Department of Corrections. That will merge into count number 1. Count number 5 is the first-degree felony murder during the perpetration of theft of Lisa Guy. The court sentences you to life in prison. That will merge with count number 2. That will be the court sentence. The court stands adjourned.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos.